Hi, I'm Lindsey, and I'm talking with medtech industry leaders on how they change lives for a better world.
The inventions and technologies are fascinating, and so are the people who work with them.
There was a period of time where I realized fundamentally my job was to go hang out with really smart people that are saving lives and then do work that would help them save more lives.
I got into the business to save lives, and it is incredibly motivating to work with people who are in that same business, saving or improving lives.
What better industry than where I get to wake up every day and just save people's lives?
These are extraordinary people doing extraordinary work, and this is The Leading Difference. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Leading Difference podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey, and I am so excited to introduce you to my guest today, Rick Sherak. After serving as an Air Force officer, Rick spent over 25 years in the medical diagnostic industry as a commercial and product development executive. Leveraging his broad leadership and medical domain experience, he became CEO of Exokinetics in March 2024 to lead the company into its next expansion phase of market awareness and revenue growth. All righty. Well, welcome, Rick, to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to speak with you.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Lindsey, and I'm glad to speak with you today as well. Should be fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Excellent. Well, I would love if you would start by sharing a little bit about yourself and your background and what led you to MedTech.
Sure. Well, so I currently live just outside of Philadelphia with my wife and our 4 dogs. We just recently moved here from Boston, so we've had to quickly become Philadelphia Eagles fans.
Oh,
Go Birds. We love it here. And my background is kind of interesting, a little bit diverse. I started off my career as an Air Force officer. I tried to follow my dad in his fighter pilot footsteps. Got almost there, but I had a medical disqualification, so I had to do a land-based job, but really enjoyed the Air Force. It was a great way to pay for my college and to serve my country and also to learn leadership. It was like a master class in leadership. Talking about getting thrown into the leadership fire and as a young 22-year-old, lead a group of people on a mission, motivate everyone and get everyone producing at their highest capacity. So that was a great way to start. But after I got out of the Air Force, I really wanted to go back to my roots, and that's in the sciences. I've always loved the sciences, especially the biological sciences. I have a degree in biological science from Baylor University. So out of the military, I was looking for an opportunity to use my interest in something that would support my family. So I started with Abbott Laboratories. And Abbott Laboratories back in the day was a Fortune 100 company, one of the up and coming med tech companies. I had a pharmaceutical arm, but I belonged to the medical diagnostic side of it. And it was great. They, at the time, were hiring a bunch of ex military officers to be their field salespeople. And none of us knew how to sell. We were all out of either the Air Force, Army, Navy, or Marines. But we learned quick. We understood, there's the hill we have to take. But I really respected Abbott because they trained us not only how to sell, but how to sell with integrity, right? And they also, they had 200 products that we had to learn and become masters at because we were selling to hospitals and medical laboratory clinicians, et cetera. But it was a great way to start my career, and I truly found that I loved it. One, I enjoyed the sales aspect. It was fun helping people solve problems with our products and ultimately help the patients get the best care, right, from their diagnostics. But two, it also taught me that I was pretty good at it. I did very well at Abbott and promoted several times and won some national awards. And as a result, I was recruited away by another med tech company, which was an early stage organization called Ventana Medical Systems. I intended to be there for 3 years and learn everything I could and then expand my career. I was there for 15 years and we had a ball. We took this little medical diagnostic company that came up with a transformative device that would automate very complicated processes in the pathology laboratory environment. So it was disruptive technology. We were going out there with something nobody had ever seen before. And I joined them pre-IPO. So we went public, and then we started churning and burning and impressing Wall Street every quarter so that we can up our value. 15 short years later, we sold the company to Roche Diagnostics. So, what a great exit and
Wow.
just a wonderful experience in developing my leadership because I was management as I quickly was filling levels as we were growing. But what a wonderful ride. It's something to see somebody with an early vision to take it step by step to a wonderful exit. But we helped a lot of people. We became a market leader in the histochemistry automation, and it just truly was a great experience. But after Ventana, I wanted to do something a little different. So I stepped into the world of startups. I spent about 12 years in the startup world, worked for 4 startups, 2 of which died, which happens a lot in that environment. And then the other couple did pretty well. I really enjoyed it because now I was helping people on the oncology diagnostic side of medtech. So each startup had a unique laboratory technology that would better predict the patient outcome to a particular chemotherapy or targeted immunotherapy for their cancer. So the whole purpose was to see how can we get better predictive value so that these patients don't have to suffer unnecessarily with the wrong drug. So that again was just a wonderful opportunity for me because more than not, I would come into these startups and have to create the commercial organization from scratch. That
Mm.
means I had to hire my own national sales team, my own marketing team, my own customer service team, and logistics team to handle very delicate samples. But I loved it. It enabled me to take everything I learned from the Air Force, from Abbott, from Ventana, and apply it to a small company environment. And I found that it was addictive. And that's why I stayed in it for many years. But then I did another turn and I took a sidestep because I loved also, I was always been kind of a frustrated engineer. I joined an engineering company that just focused on design development of medical devices. And they hired me because of my diagnostic domain experience. And I went out and found early stage companies and brought them to this engineering firm so we could take the novel technologies from these companies and make them into a product that could be commercialized. So I did that for several years. Long story short, today I'm in a completely different type of medical device environment. I'm the CEO of Exokinetics, and Exokinetics is a very unique organization in that we decided to look at the mobility device market and fill the gap because unfortunately, people with mobility challenges are basically regulated to either wheelchairs or walkers or electronic scooters, all of which have significant problems to their health because they're not using their body in many cases, and fall prevalence. People with walkers, oh, it's just such a shame. There's over 50,000 emergency room visits a year of people falling on with their walkers. So, anyways, Exokinetics has developed a very unique mobility device that gives people a lot more freedom and safety in their daily challenges with mobility. So, sorry, it's kind of long.
Oh, I loved it. No, I so appreciate it. Thank you for talking us through all of that. That was great. And so many questions, but I'll try to start at the end a little bit and then probably work my way back.
Sure.
But yeah, so okay. So I'd love to hear more about the company that you are now involved in and this device, but I'd love to take it back a little bit further and say, what made you aware of this challenge existing that there isn't a great solution in the marketplace or not maybe more updated
Yeah,
options. So,
right.
what made you aware of that challenge and then decide, okay, I think I have the tools, resources, ideas to fix it, to address it?
Great question. I was not aware, right? I was not aware of the challenges. However, a buddy of mine, we go to the same church. We're in a men's group. We're a bunch of old guys hanging out, talking about stuff. And he was doing some investing into early stage or startup medical diagnostic companies. A very generous individual. And he knew of my background. And he goes, Rick, he goes, I'm looking at this company. I'm not sure I want to invest, but maybe you can look at it with me. So I did some free consulting for him. He's my friend. And then he kept dragging me to this company, to their board meetings, right? And I'm going, hey, this is great. And I give him my advice because it was new for me. And that's how I found out, Lindsay, about the challenges that people with mobility issues have is that the status quo now is, oh, you have Parkinson's or you have cerebral palsy or you've had a stroke. Put those people in a wheelchair and just let them live their life at that level. And I didn't realize how horrible that is for many of these people because they still have utility of their legs, right? But when you're confined to a wheelchair for long term, your legs will naturally atrophy, right? And
Right.
become so weak that they won't be able to use them anymore. So, what struck me as mission driven was that this company invented with their own engineers this device that not only promotes people with mobility issues to use their body, but to use their body effectively, moving around horizontally around their world, but also vertically. It enables them to go from a seated position to a standing position. And for us, for you and I, we're thinking, well, yeah, that's pretty good. For them, that is a game changer. Being able to go from seated position to standing and then walk from that position, all without the fear of falling. So it really touched my heart as I learned more and more about the company. And I kept giving more and more time to them. So eventually I was pulled aside and they said, Rick, what's your appetite for running this company? Because we need to grow it and we need to get out there and help more people. So lo and behold, I've been here for almost a year. February 1st is my anniversary. And
Wow.
it's been a great ride. I just love it. I have a passionate team, mostly of young people. I love it. I couldn't script better people, more compassionate, more caring. All of our customers are suffering in some
Mm.
way or another. Even our elderly customers that are just bad knees, bad hips, bad endurance, our device is perfect for them. So yeah, we're having fun.
That's great. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing a little bit about that too. And so, as you've stepped into this leadership role that you weren't necessarily anticipating was your next right thing, what were some of the challenges? Because you've had an amazing career. And like you said at the beginning, you were learning leadership skills all throughout. And you've had many iterations of different ways of approaching medtech with the industry. But now, as CEO, that's another thing. And so I'm curious, how was that transition to step into this leadership role and take it on?
No, and it has been different in many ways, but it's also very similar in others, right? Because, in my opinion, leadership, really the definition from my perspective, is that a good leader motivates effectively a group of people, talented people, and usually a very diverse group of people, pulls them all together to accomplish an overall mission or goal, right? And that's the part I wouldn't say that's easy about my job now as CEO, but it's natural. And I love motivating my people. I'm a big fan of management by walking around. I try to talk to all my employees at least every day or every other day just to see what's going on, not only in the business side of things, but also in their personal side of things. Um, you know, I I assume that nobody's going to respect me unless I earn it. And I just want to make sure that I'm leading by example and I'm the guy that either gets to the office first or leaves the office last, just trying to make sure that I'm there for my people when they need me. What is different, Lindsay, is that I am struggling with delegation because I want
Oh.
to do it all myself, right?
Mhm.
And I know better. Right? It takes me a long time to dye this hair white because I'm not that old, but I just know better. But it's a struggle because you have to allow others to get things done. And especially in a small company like this. We were still very early stage. People are wearing a lot of hats, and I just have to allow them to go and give them the best guidance I can and then press on to the next thing. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like you've been very intentional building a company culture that reflects the values that you care about, of course, and also reflects compassion, because you mentioned your customers, for instance, are all folks that are in a difficult, challenging place. So,
Correct.
how do you feel the importance blends from really intentionally cultivating a culture that is this empathic, creative problem solving, just really good culture, it sounds like, to how that affects how you basically present to the world who you are?
Oh. Well, now that's a great question. So, where our challenge is that our customer base is so broad,
Mm,
right? And like you said, all of our customers in our D2C business, that's about 40% of our business is direct to consumer, right? But we have other customers, distributors. We have hospitals that use our device, physical therapy, occupational therapy, neurological research, things like that.
yeah.
But the key, I think, from our perspective, is we want people to realize that, hey, we don't have 20 products, right? That we've gotten from other folks. We have designed and developed a very new and transformative device that only came about because we had our own internal engineers and we've listened to what is needed out there to help people live a better, more free, more independent, and active lifestyle.
Mm,
So, interestingly, when we broadcast ourselves out there, I hope that people realize that, wow, this is not just a company selling something new. They design and develop this with their own people, right? There's a lot of love in our products. And people can tell because each one of our products is handmade and it's customized to the individual ordering it by their, weight, how much they weigh, and how tall they are. So we can adjust everything for them. Um, and I tell you, it's a lot of fun because some people literally take the time when they get their zine. That's the name of our product, Zine. But they'll write us these wonderful notes on how this device has just transformed the way that they engage with their world. And when you sit back and you go, hey, what difference are we making today? Wow. That's why I think I have such a motivated group of people
yeah.
because every day we're talking to these wonderful, courageous individuals that have lost a big part of their ability to live effectively in the world. And they're looking for something new, something meaningful, and something that's going to help them. And when we can provide that, it's just wonderful. Very rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Just to know the impact that you're making and able to make. And so the days that get really tough or frustrating or whatever, you can still hold on to this anchor of, but we're making a difference. We know
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And we see it. We have visitors come to the factory just about every week. Maybe two or three visitors will come and they'll try out the zine to say, hey, I saw it on social media. Just want to try it. You guys are local. And that's when we really get that visceral customer experience, right?
Yeah.
It's just crazy, Lindsay. I've seen people come in, bent over, sitting on this little electric scooter with a joystick, and they come in and they just look broken, right? And then we get them into a zine, and then they're all of a sudden their spine's starting to straighten, right? They start sitting up. And then we slowly and compassionately show them how the device works and everything, but we make sure that they feel safe and that they trust. And as soon as we get that go ahead, which often you just see it in their eyes, then we'll engage the levers and the zine will lift that person with it's kind of like a big bicycle seat under them. It lifts up with this non-motorized lift mechanism that we invented up to 75% of a person's body weight. So now they go from the seating position to standing. Now, many of these people can't do that on their own. They can't extend their legs from seating to standing. They need other people to grab them and lift them, right? But now Zine lifts them. Now they're standing. And again, it's just phenomenal because this person that came in on this scooter bent over is now standing. They're putting weight on their legs. They're stimulating their brain because there's weight on their legs, right? Now neural connections are starting to flow again and their spine straightens and they stand tall. And when they take those first steps, often it's very slow, just tiny little steps. But then we just leave them be, and we talk to their family that came with them, and we go get something to drink, get some snacks, start chatting, and just let them be. And it's amazing. You can just see their brains working and their legs moving faster and faster. I've seen people barely moving at the beginning, and at the end, they're cruising. We call it the lap. They go around the office, around all the desks and everything, and everybody's clapping.
Oh,
But it's so
wow.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to overstate it, but this is our daily life. So I'm just very happy and pleased that my background has led me here. It's a great way to finish my career. I want to stay here for as long as I can. Um, Hopefully, it'll be many years because I enjoy every day of it.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, and thank you for sharing those stories. I was just imagining that
Yeah.
laugh
Oh,
and
yeah, so
how
long.
amazing.
They're so cool.
Can't possibly get old. Just witnessing joy and and hope, honestly.
Oh,
Even hope
oh,
alone is
the one of the best is his father comes in with his twin boys, and the boys have cerebral palsy. It's a disease that you get from birth, right? And their legs are just not good, and they have no balance at all. And the father brings them in, he carries them because they don't even have a mobility device that really works for them,
Mm.
except for walkers, like an old person walker. Right? But he carries them in, he puts them on in the lobby, and we bring over the zines. And these little boys are the cutest things you've ever seen. They're twins, they're chatty, they're so excited. We get them into the device, and their first few steps is, like I said before, were just tiny, tiny, but then they built their trust. And at the end of the visit, these boys were running. I mean, they were digging in with their little legs, fully supported, fully trusting the device, and their hands were in the air waving. And their dad is just like tears. He's just like gushing. He's going, one, I've never seen my sons run before. Two, they've never moved without their hands either holding a walker or crawling on the floor.
Mm.
He goes, these boys are running around with their hands in the air, and they're saying, "Hey, look, Daddy, my hands are in the air. I don't need to use my hands." And of course, we have Kleenex boxes all over the office.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you'd have to. It's just part of the office supplies.
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have a Costco membership for
Yeah.
regular shipment of Kleenex. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that story. That's
Oh
incredible. I
yeah.
can just with for a father's heart and
Oh,
just see his kids.
it's so
Wow.
amazing.
Wow.
It's so amazing.
So this is all incredibly exciting, just the way it is right now. But I imagine there are future plans. Can you
Yeah.
share a little bit about what's next? What are you excited about as you move forward?
Well, what's really exciting is our growth potential, right? So again, the Zine is a very unique device, but it fits so many different segments of populations. Like we've been talking about, people with chronic illness. That is our core group, right? We work with people with Parkinson's, MS, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, ataxia, you know, just about anything like that where people have strength, balance, or endurance issues. The other part that we're really excited about this year is that we didn't realize until those boys how much our zine would help in the pediatric environment. So now we're making a very concerted effort going after the Children's Hospital physical therapy groups, showing them amazing utility of a zine. And also because it's so adjustable, a child can get into a zine early, let's say at the age of 7, and it could actually stay and grow with them until they're 14 or 15 years old. The whole thing adjusts up. So we're very excited about that market space. And we're also introducing the zine to luxury senior centers because so many of our zine customers are just elderly people that don't want to give up, that have this incredible determination to either maintain or regain their mobility. Their knees hurt, their hips hurt, their endurance is down. So that's another avenue that we're introducing ourselves to primarily through social media and publications through PR. But we're hoping this new awareness will get more zines out there. Our goal is really awareness. And that's one of the reasons that you and I are talking. I want to get out there as much as possible and let people know that there's other alternatives out there for their loved ones or for themselves if they have mobility challenges. And please check us out. We have a really cool website with a lot of videos, a lot of testimonials. And we just love helping people, and we're very fair in business. Our product is not cheap, but we give most customers a 14-day minimum home trial. And we say use it a lot, as much as you can, to make sure it's a good fit. If you don't like it, money back.
Mhm.
So we try to be as fair as possible to make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, and so for any of our listeners that are, gonna go and check out the website, just make sure you have your own stash of Kleenex. So soon. Oh man.
And every time we sell a zine, it comes with a virtual training session. So it's a one-on-one with one of my specialists. And I tell you, these folks are the best. They're the best trainers, and they're just the most delightful people, right? And they're like you. They're virtual, but you feel like they're right there with you.
Yeah.
So we do virtual training for every one of our customers. And that gives us that opportunity to see people eye to eye and to ensure that they understand their new tool and how to use it, and how to, like I mentioned before, how to trust it
Mm.
and realize that they're not going to fall, that they can move again, and they can do it safely.
Amazing.
So,
Well, gosh, thank you so much for sharing about the company and about
yeah.
the device and the lives that it's impacting. And I love learning about this. I'm so excited about the work that you're doing. So thank you for putting in the work. It's not easy. Startup world is difficult, and especially med tech, but you've
Oh,
done it.
yeah.
So good job.
Well,
Um,
and this is also interesting for me because it's manufacturing.
yeah.
Before, I didn't have to manage manufacturing. So manufacturing is a whole different beast. It's getting your parts, getting them ordered in time because everything has to be built just right. This is like a high-end super bike. It has the latest in technology for aluminum framing and engineering leverage. So that's a challenge for sure. But the other thing I wanted to plug real quick, Lindsay, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
is again, we're a premium priced product,
Mhm.
but we're not covered under insurance plans right now. That means Medicare or Medicaid. So part of our outreach is we've created a foundation. It's a nonprofit foundation, so that if we can find donors that want to support, the money goes into our foundation, and we take applicants and we provide grants for up to half the cost of a zine through the foundation. The other half is on the people that are trying to buy it. And what's so interesting, talking about putting skin in the game, right? People will call in and say, geez, I just can't swing that amount of money. Well, let's talk about the foundation, but you have to come up with half. And that creates such a partnership. And they're so excited. They'll be emailing my folks going, hey, I was able to raise $500 through a crowdfund. You just got to keep going. And we're going, yeah, keep going. And as soon as they hit that halfway mark, the. Kicks in, so again, I just want to put a plug out there so that we can help very deserving people that just financially need a little support.
I love that. So that's a great way for even listeners to get involved, even if they don't necessarily personally need the
Yeah.
device, but donating to this incredible cause, that would be awesome too. So
Everything would be so appreciated. Yeah.
great. Yes, absolutely. Well, okay. So pivoting the conversation a little bit just for fun, imagine that you were to be offered $1 million to teach a masterclass on anything you want. It can be within your industry currently, it could be
Oh.
about anything. What would you choose to teach?
That's funny that you said that. I live right next to Villanova University, and a lot of my neighbors are professors there.
Yeah.
And one of our best friends live a few houses down. She's in the business ethics department. And she even said, she goes, Rick, have you ever thought about teaching? And I said, I've never really been a teacher, but if I were to teach, the thing I would love to do would be to capture over all these years of me being in this industry, the nuances of the psychology of sales, right? Because people think of sales as, oh, you're trying to trick people into buying, right? Turn that completely upside down to you're trying to assist people to buy. Because people really, when they're looking at your product, they want it, but they need help. They're counting on you to help them in that process. And it's a psychological bond when you're talking to somebody and you have a product and they have a need and you're trying to find that perfect combination, right? So that they feel, hey, this is great for me. It's worth every penny because I see the value versus having them feel, oh man, I'm going to get ripped off. So I would love to go down that path. I think that's so interesting because people are people and salespeople, the best ones I've ever seen, like I mentioned before, are compassionate and caring, but they're also pleasantly persistent, right? And they go, they listen and they say, all right, but let's keep moving down the path.
Yeah.
And people that are on the buying side truly want that. They want that partnership, that walking side by side down that path to purchase because sometimes they're not courageous enough to buy just by themselves. So
Yeah.
to destigmatize sales would be kind of fun.
I love that. That would be great. That'd be a great masterclass too, just to really dive into some of that. And yeah, to put a different perspective on your role and you're helping
Yeah,
somebody to achieve what their goals are, to be honest. So
absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely. And we've all had those good experiences and we've all had those bad experiences.
Definitely. Definitely. So, how do you wish to be remembered after you leave this world?
You know, that's interesting because I love to read. My morning time is my reading time. That's my time. It's me and my two collies. They're also early risers. The pugs, the two pugs, no, they'll sleep in with their mother. But in my reading and in my studies, essentially, I think it all boils down to at the end of the day, when the curtain starts coming down, wouldn't it be nice when you're out, you're no longer here, and people look back and they just say, you know what? That guy or that lady really genuinely cared about other people. I think authenticity and being genuine is something I would love to be remembered for. And it's not easy because sometimes you're not authentic to yourself, yet to others. Right.
Yeah.
You know, so especially at this stage in my life, I just see caring for people is just amazing. Talking about if everybody cared a little bit more for each other, might be a different place. Mhm.
Yeah. And having the courage to be authentic and honest can sometimes also be, it does come with a little bit of vulnerability. So I love
Oh,
that.
yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. You
Yeah.
know, it's all about if you're just so lucky to have a little bit of grace, a little bit of wisdom, but like you said, a lot of courage. 'Cause that's when it all means something, right? The purpose.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. And then,
cool.
yeah. And then, final question. What
Oh,
is, I know, what is one thing that makes you smile every time you see or think about it?
well, you know, funny because we've been talking about leadership and sales. I just got to tell you a quick story because it always makes me smile. As I mentioned before, I was an Air Force officer, and all of a sudden I jump out of the Air Force into a sales role with a medical diagnostic company. And just, I just went through training. I got assigned my territory. It was Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm a Colorado boy, so Baton Rouge, Louisiana was a little bit different for me. But the company moved me down there, and I started my sales career. And my customers were all hospitals and clinical laboratories in Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and the Bayou South, all those little towns in there. And I didn't realize it until after I started. But but my territory was made out of the accounts the other salespeople didn't want.
Oh.
So the guys that were there, they cherry picked the good accounts and what they didn't want, they made into my territory, right? The new guy.
Hmm.
When I went in, I was dialed in. I had my brochures, I knew all my product knowledge, and I'd make appointments and I'd sit in front of these lab managers and these clinical influencers. And these lovely people, they would sit there, they would be so kind, have their arms crossed. I'd go through my spiel, and then they just look at me and they say, "Thank you, Rick, for coming. I'm not interested at this time." I go, "Ugh, okay." So this went on, Lindsay, for 6 months at every single hospital or clinical laboratory. I was like on the bottom of the sales list. I couldn't get anybody to buy anything. And it was so funny. And this is what makes me laugh. I'll never forget. I was down in south of Lafayette, and I was sitting in front of this lab manager, and I've seen him every 3 weeks, like clockwork, right? And I'd always bring in new information, recap what we discussed before, and ask for the business. And he'd always say, "No, I'm not interested." But about 6 months in, he just looked at me. I got through my spiel, and he goes, "Rick," he goes, "are you just going to keep showing up every 3 weeks?" And he said, "Yes, sir." And he says, looking at me, and he's going, "Well, I'm not buying anything from you." And I said, "Yes, sir, but I truly feel that my products are the best products that you could use in your laboratory to make you more successful and to give your patients the best diagnostic information to help them fight their disease," because it was mostly oncology focused. And he just looked at me and he goes, "You truly believe that?" I said, "Yes, sir, I truly believe, and I'm going to keep coming back until you believe." And he just sits back, and I'll never forget this. He unfolded his arms, put his hands on the table, and he goes, "Well, okay, then let me see what you got." And it was
Wow.
awesome. Lindsay, I swear there was like some underground communication channel, because every hospital or clinical laboratory started listening to me after about 6 months. It was weird. And in another 6 months, I was on top of the sales roles, and I had turned my territory around, and we were just having a ball. But it was that persistence. It was just in the caring. I
Yeah.
just cared. I was convinced my products were better.
Yeah.
And he appreciated that. And it was a fun. It makes me smile today, because there's nothing like seeing somebody say, "Well, you know what? I trust you enough to listen to you now." So,
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. They really had to go through that know, like, and trust
oh,
you cycle
these
or a
are
journey.
these are long-term Louisianians. I'm coming in as an outsider too, so that
Yeah.
I had to
There, you
prove
know?
myself. But they're the most wonderful people. Before I got promoted out of that territory, I used to show up at least once every maybe 2 months per hospital with all these crawfish and a big old pot and a boiler. And I
Yeah.
would, out in the parking lot, I'd be boiling crawfish. And I'd call the lab and I'd say, "Hey guys, I got crawfish." And they go, "Oh, Rick got some crawfish." And they'd all come out and we'd all eat crawfish. That's how you do it in Louisiana. It
I
was
love it.
a good time.
Very cool. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing about that. And just in
Sure.
general, being so willing to share so much of your story. I really appreciate it. I loved getting the opportunity to learn about you and your background and your heart for medtech, your heart for the people that you're serving. So thank you. I know
Oh,
days
so
aren't always a walk in the park,
well,
as much fun as I know you're having, but I know you have good days
no.
and bad days. So thank you again so much for joining me.
Thank you, Lindsay.
And I just wish you the most continued success as you continue to work to change lives for a better world. And just also thanks to our listeners for tuning in. And if you're feeling as inspired as I am, I'd love it if you'd share this episode with a colleague or two. And we'll catch you next time.
The Leading Difference is brought to you by Velentium. Velentium is a full-service CDMO with 100% in-house capability to design, develop, and manufacture medical devices, from Class 2 wearables to Class 3 active implantable medical devices. Velentium specializes in active implantables, leads, programmers, and accessories across a wide range of indications, such as neuromodulation, deep brain stimulation, cardiac management, and diabetes management. Velentium's core competencies include electrical, firmware, and mechanical design, mobile apps, embedded cybersecurity, human factors and usability, automated test systems, systems engineering, and contract manufacturing. Velentium works with clients worldwide, from startups seeking funding to established Fortune 100 companies. Visit Velentium.com to explore your next step in medical device development.